Hey everyone, welcome to the Manitoba YBN interview series. My name is Miran and I'm the co-chair of the YBN currently. Today we have Kevin Lee out of Alberta. We're very excited to talk to. So Kevin, thanks for agreeing to do this first of all, but I'd say let's get right into this and tell us a bit about yourself.
So I have a couple different things going. Currently, I am the president of Fuse Insurance Limited, a specialty lines commercial insurance brokerage I founded just over 3 years ago. On top of that, I am the past president of the PYIB, which is the Professional Young Insurance Brokers, which is effectively the YBN of Alberta. I am also the chair of YBAC, or the Young Brokers Advisory Council, which is a standing committee of the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada. And that would be effectively a group where we take the YBNs, PYIBs, YBCs, and all the other acronyms from across Canada and combine them into a national young broker group to help share ideas between that. So between the Alberta National and, of course, running my own brokerage, it keeps me pretty busy with different things throughout the insurance industry.
Yeah, no kidding. You're making me look like an amateur here. I'm only involved in a couple things. I thought I had it tough.
Hey, you can jump up there, and someday you can be in charge of the national thing, or find a bunch of other subcommittees in the insurance industry to join too. There's lots of them to be had.
Yeah, no, we'll see. So let's just talk about that. Obviously, you're involved in a ton of things. You own your own brokerage. Especially in this industry, I'd classify you as a young man. We have a pretty historic industry that we're in. So between running your own brokerage, the local YBN, national YBN, you're a board member. How do you balance all those things?
It's a mix of, I guess, decent time management, making sure that you're actually using the calendar and whatnot. But I think more importantly than that is, especially with groups like YBN and its related counterparts, is knowing when and how to rely on the rest of your other board members or the other people involved in the organization. It's sometimes in these types of groups, it ends up leaders feel like they have to do everything themselves and, carry the flag and take care of all details, big and small. And I find that that's not really the best way to run it. I think it's much more effective to have everyone working together as a team, to delegate out tasks, or even better, get people to volunteer for those tasks. And that way, many hands make light work. And on top of that, the newer members who may not have as much previous involvement in YBN can also get a chance to get more involved and then get that additional experience that's going to help them when they eventually transition into leadership roles in the organizations as us older, younger people transition out. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, being involved in all those things, I'm sure it comes with a ton of time commitment, but what benefits did you see? I mean, as an individual professional, but also now, as a principal of a brokerage?
Well, it's a big benefit on both of those fronts. And I'll start with the brokerage side first. The benefit is our brokerage, Fuse Insurance, is pretty small. Like I said, we were only founded 3 years ago. And we're only at, between our tech operations side, because we're a very digital focused brokerage, and the insurance operations side, we're only at a total of about 8 staff right now. So typically speaking, most of the face time that brokerages get with executives from insurance companies or other industry partners, it tends to skew towards the large brokerages because they deliver the most volume. But by virtue of being involved in the broker association and the various YBN groups, I get the opportunity to network and meet not only the insurance executives who I want to be partnering up with in terms of getting contracts or in terms of placing business, but also with a number of other broker principals and brokerage managers who have plenty of wisdom and experience to offer me. So there's just so many resources for me to lean on, and it feels like a real team effort to work with people who are nominally our competitors, but in reality tend to become friends too after a while. So that's been a real great benefit. And that transitions nicely to the personal side too, because I genuinely like a lot of the people I deal with in the broker association and through YBN. I've had some great times with them. We've had some great conversations and learned a lot. And, I think they're a really valuable part of building a network, but just in general, actually having some fun and just helping to make the insurance industry a bit more than that daily grind of issuing certificates or, answering policy change requests or writing up new business or any of those other things that a broker tends to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, good points. I know I did a lot of that today personally, a lot of certificates and updating random things. So having an opportunity like today, where I get to talk to a guy like you, definitely makes it more interesting for myself anyway, just being in the industry.
For sure, but it's a balance. Like I sent the last certificate I was planning on doing today literally 5 minutes before this call. So it's YBN and all that other stuff is there's lots of great value to be had, but at the end of the day, the brokerage work still has to get done too.
Yeah, no, that's your baby, right? You gotta take care of that first above all. So no, I mean all the balance you do, it's a tough spot to be in, but I think as you know what you said, and I totally agree. It pays dividends in multiple ways. So good for you. When it comes to other young brokers, obviously they just heard what you said, but what type of that type of involvement, how do you think that benefits younger brokers particularly?
Well, I think that there's a number of different benefits to be had by getting involved through YBN or any of the other acronyms we want to use. And with that is I know that most other young brokers are not brokerage owners like I am. I know that I'm a bit of the exception to the rule. But for those younger brokers who want to move up in their career, there's a couple of big benefits from YBN that you can have. The first one is the networking that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, getting to know executives from other brokerages, getting to know other managers, and even other young broker professionals, just to have a bit of a support network outside of your own office to lean on if you want to discuss things or try to find some additional knowledge out there. The other part that I think is important is something that's a little underemphasized in a lot of brokerages across the country, and actually even in some of the broker groups, is the professional education. I'm a big believer in the formal side of the professional education piece in insurance, not just grinding out your hours the day before your license renewal is due on some random website, but actually learning something. And so, getting that opportunity, to get involved, whether it's with the CAVE program or with CIP or CRM or any of the other programs that are out there, to get that formal professional education that's going to A, make you learn something to make you better at your job, and B, give you the letters and credentials behind your name to advance your career, whether that's within your own office or if you end up moving jobs in the field, which is most people in the insurance industry know is a really common occurrence to move from one shop to the other. So I would say that the biggest benefits of YBN are the networking side of it, as well as the educational opportunities that can come through it. But on top of that, I would be remiss in not acknowledging that I've had a ton of fun at various YBN, YBC, and PYIB events over the years. There's been some good shenanigans to be had. There's been some late nights and some really good memories and really good friends that have come out of it as well. So I think that's a great side benefit to go along with the professional stuff.
Yeah, no, those are all good answers. I know for me, I've been part of the Manitoba YBN now for coming on a year and a half. So fairly new to it, but I mean, just the people I've met in my short time and the events I had the chance to participate in, I agree with you fully. It's fun times, and in a line of work that it's not always rainbows and sunshines. It's a nice way to make it more fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're following in my footsteps. When I first joined PYIB in Alberta, within about 6 months, they asked me to be the vice president, and in Alberta, vice president transitions automatically to president, which then transitions to past president. So I didn't even know that at the time when I signed up and agreed to be vice president. But about a year and a half after I first joined PYIB, I was the president of Alberta. So it's been, roughly around 3 years of involvement for me now in PYIB, maybe a little bit longer than that. But it's one of those things where you could, because there's not necessarily always that many people involved, you have a chance to move up quickly and actually, get to do some pretty cool stuff as a younger broker that other young brokers who don't get involved would never get the chance to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I know you focus on commercial as well, as do I. And beyond everything you said, and I'm sure you agree with me, but just the benefit of, engaging some of your insurance markets further, talking to these guys and girls outside of a work setting or renewal policy, I think that helps a lot when you're trying to place business and ultimately help your clients. So, hey, I mean, if I'm following in your footsteps, I think I'm doing pretty good so far. So appreciate that.
Just take the good and not the bad. Although I have some nice professional accolades and whatnot and some cool things that have happened, I'm not going to hold myself out to be some type of, amazing, perfect insurance broker out there, because that's definitely not the case. So, but there's, the insurance industry for young professionals in general has so much opportunity. As you alluded to a few minutes ago, the industry is a little bit old and archaic. And by that, I mean a lot old and archaic. And as the generation that has somewhat entrenched that continues to retire and move away from the industry, we're going to see that those leadership positions and the opportunity to make the decisions that are going to shape the future of the industry fall onto those of us who are young professionals right now. And so if you want to be in charge of those decisions and you want to take advantage of those opportunities, it wouldn't hurt to position your career to, fill those slots as things come up, because I think that changeover in the industry is going to come sooner than you might think. And I know from both formal studies and from anecdotal experience, there are way more old dudes who are retired than there are young people to come fill their their in their place. So, there's the sky's the limit opportunity wise. So why not take advantage of that and secure a great future with an industry that's definitely not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Put the time in now and it'll pay dividends later.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's just, we'll cycle back. I mean, obviously, you're a younger professional, but how did you first get your start in insurance as a career?
So I always knew ever since I was a little kid that I wanted to be in business, but insurance never once crossed my mind on that. I went to University of Calgary. I grew up in Calgary. I went to U of C. On that, I went straight into the Haskayne School of Business, the commerce program, but with an undeclared major within business. And so by the time my third year or so of school rolled around, the academic advisor said, okay, you have to pick a major. You can't just have undeclared all the way through to graduation. And so they said, okay, fine. And that time, to date myself a little bit, was around the time of the global financial crisis in 2007, 2008. And there's a program at U of C called Risk Management, Insurance and Finance, or RMIF as everyone calls it out here. And I figured that might be a good one. There's some finance courses involved and you get to learn about risk management. So hopefully I'd be able to save the day from the next global financial crisis that'd be out there. Then I got in there and started taking some classes, and I realized there was maybe a little bit more about auto insurance and a little bit less about saving the world than I had initially anticipated when I signed up for it. But I found it really interesting. So I continued with it, took the senior level insurance courses, took the senior level finance courses, and graduated as one of, I believe in my class here, 10 or 12 graduates between the risk management, finance, and the straight risk management program. So a very, very small program, and one of the few risk management programs actually offered at a Canadian university. Now that has the benefit of, to my previous point about being one of the few in a position to fill many open spots, is that there are plenty of open insurance jobs available for graduates coming out of these types of specialized programs, especially in a center like Calgary, which has lots of insurance regional offices in it. And so from there, I started Aon. I was in their broker training program there. Now, to be honest, that didn't work out. Me and Aon never really quite clicked. I don't really necessarily think I am the global megacorp star employee. Probably something to do with the fact I run my own company and now I'm my own boss. I'm not necessarily bossed around by others within my own organization anyway. Clients and markets, maybe a different story. But anyway, back to that. So that didn't work out. I took some time off after Aon to go traveling. And then when I came back, I was offered a position through actually one of my professors that I knew to be a multi-line claims adjuster at Federated Insurance. And so another good Manitoba-based company there. So I started on there, and so I did multi-line adjusting, which meant that I did commercial property, commercial liability, auto first party and third party injury auto claims all at the same time. So I got very, very quickly got very broad experience to a whole number of different sides of commercial insurance, basically most of the main ones, including sub coverages like crime and boiler and machinery and other stuff like that. So basically, one of the fun benefits of being an adjuster is you get to take the actual insurance policy and apply it to real problems. It's your job as the adjuster to fix the bad, right? Someone's business burnt down, they smashed their car up, whatever, someone slipped and fell, now we have a lawsuit sitting on our desk. All those things like that is you have to take the real insurance policy, read through it, figure out what the coverages are, and then help put all the pieces back together and cut some checks and get things fixed and what have you. So you get a crash course in how insurance really works and what the insurance policies actually say very quickly. And so I think that really supercharged my insurance education. Now, that being said, as you can guess, I'm not an adjuster anymore. So the adjusting world I found it's a bit tough. I I like money. I like the sales side of things. I like commission, and all those things. So I was given an opportunity to jump to Rogers Insurance, which is a big commercial brokerage based in Calgary. They now have offices and partnerships with brokerages throughout Alberta, as well as some offices in Ontario and British Columbia and a couple other places. But they're a pretty big player out in this part of the world. So they basically they wanted to write an account that Federated had. I was a control adjuster on that account for Federated, and the account told the Rogers they would never move while I was still their adjuster. So Rogers phoned me and offered me a job, which happened to be the day after Federated had turned me down for a raise due to budget constraints. And so I quite happily jumped at Rogers' offer and moved from the adjusting side of the insurance business to the broking side of it. As a large commercial producer, large commercial account executive, or whatever title that involves going out and getting accounts and managing them would be called, because every brokerage is a different name for the same thing, but producer basically would be it. So from there, I did some additional training through Northbridge's producer development program. I got my CIP, CAVE, and CRM designations, all within the scope of about 2 years, because thanks to some transfer credits between those factors. And then from there, I went out and started hunting for business and large commercial sales, and it turned out really well. I ended up smashing Rogers' record for back-to-back new business sales years. Won some different national awards in terms of production. I won Young Gun, Elite Broker, a couple other smaller ones, or top 10 under 40 as well in terms of the broking side of things. And that went really well. That grew nicely. But as time goes on, selling things and whatnot, is as a producer, you get paid a percentage of commission typically that you bring in for the firm. And I always wanted to run my own business, and I saw the opportunity that maybe it would be nice to earn all of the commission that was brought into the firm. Mind you, having to pay expenses out afterwards, but earning all the commission and powering forward from there. So that thought kind of got planted in the back of my mind, and from there, Ryan, are you still there?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out there right around when you were talking about how you'd prefer to get all the commission.
So anyway, the thought was planted in the back of my mind that, if you run your own brokerage, you kind of get the whole pie when you sell an account. And so anyway, one of my hobbies is I love to travel. Now, obviously, it's not happening much currently due to the global pandemic, but before that, I have traveled all over the world. I've been to 70-ish different countries. I think it's 72 or 71 now. That continued while I was at Rogers. I take quick trips, go somewhere for a week, work while on the road as best as I could, and still get a chance to see another part of the world. And so on one of those trips, one of my best friends, his name is Simon Haliwa, him and I went to elementary school together. We went to high school together. And so he had been taking some time off to traveling because his background is from Deloitte in cybersecurity. He's a software engineer by trade. Anyway, him and I were in Colombia one time. We were out in the city of Cartagena on the coast enjoying fresh seafood and a few beers. And we got to chatting about how the insurance industry works. And I explained how non-tech forward it was, about paper applications, fax machines, scanning handwritten PDF documents, and all the other things that kind of make the commercial insurance world go around most of these days. And for my buddy Simon's perspective as a software engineer, that he couldn't really understand how this was possible in modern times for something to be so archaic and redundant compared to what it could be. So we got talking, and we came, by the time we were done, we came up with a bit of a rough idea to explore a plan of putting together a digital commercial insurance brokerage where we would use technology to help us with our frontline underwriting, to help us write quotes, to try to do things on a quote bind issue basis, and basically haul the commercial insurance business into the 21st century, kicking and screaming. And after talking about that and thinking about it for probably 9 months to a year, we back in the end of July 2017, we pulled the trigger. I left my position at Rogers and we started up Fuse Insurance. So from there, we've done a substantial amount of tech development, and we've pivoted a little bit over the years as we've found things, but we've grown our areas. We found that we've done best in specialty lines, that we've been able to concentrate on certain markets and really win those, especially the cannabis industry, which is by far our biggest practice area. That's a fairly fun area to trade in, but we've done well. So yeah, basically we decided that by virtue of partnering up my software engineer and an insurance guy, you can put together and hopefully build something a little more modern and tech savvy than what's been out there. And it's been a very fun adventure and process ever since. So that's the not short and not too long version of my whole insurance career through till today. So, and that whole time span from the when I first started at Aon till now has been about just over 10 years. So I've been in the industry. I'm 31 now. I've been in the industry since I was 21.
Wow. No, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but given how successful you were at Rogers, you know, I even see online all those awards you talked about, being a top producer. Was it, and I know you always wanted to start your own business, but was it tough at all to walk away from that success? And like, you know,
yeah, definitely. It was probably the hardest decision I've ever made to walk away from that, because, you know, there's some decent financial security there. I was a partner at Rogers, a shareholder within the brokerage there as well. And so I built up, you know, a pretty good sized book in that environment. And it was a tough decision, but I think at the end of the day, both from a potential future earnings standpoint of building up a brokerage that you actually own, as opposed to being a small shareholder of what is now a very large brokerage, and as well as the personal development of getting to see the rest of how the sausage is made, of, you know, how the world of insurer contracts, as well as the general skills of running a business, from everything from accounting to HR to just general, you know, financial planning and everything else that goes along in with running it. I think it was definitely the right decision, even if it's been harder than I expected, for sure. If we were to go back and read our first drafts for our business plans from Fuse and our first financial projections of how we'd be all sitting on the beach sipping margaritas in a few years after starting the business, I'd probably have a pretty good laugh. But I think it's definitely well worth the pain to go through the effort on this. But it's also not for everyone, because it's a tough journey with a, you know, significant upside and significant potential for downside too. You know, the guarantees are not there in the slightest.
No, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of figured, you know, you're an entrepreneur, so that makes total sense that you were willing to give up that success, minority stake in a bigger company. But when you actually did it, right, you resigned and you said, I'm going for it. What was the biggest challenge that you guys faced initially? You know, I'm sure markets would be one, obtaining those, but what would you say in terms of that?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest challenge on our initial startup was the market side of it. I had thought that it would be easier to get our first contract, which then would allow us to have a sponsor to get our Alberta brokerage license so that we could actually sell insurance. And that process, I thought it would probably take a month or so to complete. It ended up taking us 6 months to do. So it was definitely, you know, that put a slower start to our company. The tech development side has also been more of a challenge than I thought. You know, the technology pieces have not come together as quickly as we had initially anticipated, but we've also been putting a focus on building for success in the future, wherein the technology foundation we have is a lot more scalable and a lot more robust than just slapping together some solution that may work for a bit and then break or expose us to cybersecurity concerns. So I'm a little less worried on the tech side, but the contract side was definitely the hardest piece of starting up a new brokerage. You know, managing your markets as a broker is it's an important part of the job, to make sure that your markets are happy, that they are, you know, that you're treating them well enough and that they're treating you well enough too, to manage that relationship in there and deliver them quality business so they can give you good quotes and carry on. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the hardest bit overall. Followed, actually, now to add on to that, also learning some of the things that in terms of business planning, in terms of putting together things like companies and tax registrations and all these other little things that you need to do in order to have a legally run company. It's certainly been more difficult. If I were to do it all over again, the stuff that would probably have taken me months to figure out in terms of things like the CRA and corporate registrations and all these other things, I could probably do in like a day. It's just an experience thing to learn all those things and build them forward. But that's one of the main benefits of running your own company and starting up something like this, is getting that hands-on experience and, you know, really diving into the meat and potatoes of it to get it done. So I'm no complaints on that side for that learning for me at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very ambitious. I can say, I work at Hub, obviously, which is a big player in the brokerage business. And coming from a regional brokerage and having the market access and clout we do, I can imagine how tough that'd be, especially starting off, right, when you have to prove yourself to these companies and, have some premium to commit to get some contracts. But good for you. I mean, it sounds like you've done great. You've definitely separated yourself through the cannabis sector. You kind of touched on that previously. So that's what I wanted to kind of go on into next, the next subject here, because in Manitoba, I mean, there are some cannabis risks, but I think it's a lot more prevalent out west, and especially in Alberta where you are. What made you decide to focus into that? Was it just you saw that opportunity? And how have you been able to scale that since legalization?
So we first got our brokerage license in January of 2018. And as most people watching this call will probably know, the cannabis was legalized in October of 2018. So that, and it was announced about a year before, October 2017 or so roughly, is when the Cannabis Act legislation first started being, crystallized and finalized. And then it would, really came to be all sorted out come early 2018. There was some different back and forth at the Health Canada and federal level. But in general, we knew that cannabis was going to be legal by October 2018, early in 2018. And so that led to what they call the green rush, to use an industry terminology, of businesses wanting to get in to do things within the recreational cannabis space. And so we realized that, especially in Alberta, which has privatized cannabis stores to go along with our privatized liquor stores, that there would be a significant number of new businesses that would have a need for insurance. And on top of that, we also knew that the vast majority of insurance companies want nothing to do with cannabis, and that hasn't really changed at all. That's still true. But we did know that if we were able to position ourselves as a leader in that space, we'd be able to capture a lot of that business by virtue of just being one of the brokers that actually knows what they're doing in this sector. And so we went out and we spoke with markets that we thought may or may not be interested, and talked to different MGAs and different underwriting firms and different different domestic insurers, and talked to London and basically anyone who would listen to us about cannabis to sort of see what the appetite was. And from there, we built up a panel of markets that will actually do this. And our panel of markets, as far as I'm aware, is every cannabis market in Canada. There's not that many of them, but it gives us the opportunity to work with all of them. And so by doing that, we basically just got ourselves out there. And we, being a digital brokerage, have a lot of focus on our SEO, our website, and our other digital offerings. So we are one of the top-ranking top-ranking search results for cannabis insurance across the country, just by virtue of us being one of the first people to actually really focus on it and build up that digital reputation. And so that's led some great traffic to us. On top of that, we realized that in order for us to go chase bigger fish and for us to do better, we'd have to attend cannabis trade shows and really get to know the industry. And one of the very first events we went to back in April or so, 2018, was a Canadian cannabis conference in Calgary, and here in Calgary. And we talked to people there, and they said, basically, if you want to write the cannabis industry, we want to see you at every event out there and really get to know everyone, because it turns out it's a pretty small, well-networked industry. It's amazing how many guys I run across that, although cannabis has been legal for just about 2 years coming up, they seem to have 20 or so years of experience in the business. So I'll just let that slide at times. But that network existed long before the legislation ever got passed. And a lot of those growers and people involved in the industry, from the medical days, from the ACMPR, MMAR days, as well as from the medical regime that was in place prior to the recreational legalization, a lot of those players all knew each other. It was a small network, and for us to break into that network has given us a lot of success. And so we did just that. We went to all the cannabis trade shows across the country. We learned as much as we could about Health Canada regulations. I took my Sell Safe course, which is the course you need to be able to be a cannabis retail worker in Alberta, similar to your alcohol serve safe or what have you. There's a million different variations of the same thing across the provinces, but your provincial certification for that, and basically learned what we could to be sure that we knew the regulations and knew what we could offer to people, and then went and met people and demonstrated that we should be their choice for insurance in the industry because we actually know what we're talking about. And on top of that, we have the markets to back it up. And now that works well and great in cannabis, but that model also works well and great in basically every other industry. If you are an insurance broker out there and you want to break into a specific industry, you have to get that knowledge of how the industry works itself, who the players are, what the regulations are, and you get the knowledge on the insurance side of who the markets are, what the specialty coverages are, what people are going to offer, what they aren't going to offer, what the pricing looks like. And if you can do that and then from there network and reach out to people, whether it's on a cold call basis or at an in-person trade show, and build those connections and prove that you actually know your stuff and you're probably better than their current broker who doesn't know anything, which is, as most of you know, sadly the case a lot of times when you run across accounts out there, especially in commercial. And so, yeah, we just built it up, and we figured as that snowball started to roll downhill, let's just keep on trucking with it. And so we continue to write many new accounts in the cannabis sector. We actually do business in Manitoba, as well as Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. And yes, you are right. There is a lot more cannabis business in Alberta and in BC than there is in Manitoba. It's that, although as the regulations are changing out there, as many of you may know, they have opened up the private retail store licensing side to more than just the initial 4 companies that were picked as part of the government's first round in Manitoba. So that has led to calls for us, and I'm sure for brokers in Manitoba, to start providing insurance for these stores. So it's a very quick, direct example of how some regulatory liberalization has helped spur economic activity and get people to invest in starting new businesses across Manitoba. We've had calls from the Winnipeg area, and we've had calls from far-flung parts of Manitoba I'd never heard of until they called us. So it's definitely gone well for us. But I know that given the number of calls we've had compared to the scope of stores being opened, we know that most of the business seems to be trending local, which is what we want to see for a lot of Manitoba brokers. And as a small plug, our firm also does wholesale wholesale insurance within the cannabis sector. So if you are a broker looking for help in the cannabis area or looking to place coverage, give us a call. We are happy to help with our market access, including direct into Lloyd's, depending on the products for you on that. So we are happy to share the knowledge and team up on accounts across the Western Canada.
No, awesome stuff, man. So you touched on it a bit there, just with all the markets you need to have, various types of cannabis risks. But from a really broad point of view, what are the different risks with cannabis? Are you guys focusing more on the retail operation, the growing side of it? I'm sure there's even risks involved with the transportation. Like, how big is this industry from an insurance perspective?
This industry's decent size from an insurance perspective. It's certainly not the biggest industry out there. Unfortunately, the higher rates and limit number of providers definitely push some higher pricing on an apples to oranges basis if we compare this to other agriculture related or controlled substances related industries. But yeah, our brokerage, we operate in, to use cannabis industry terminology, from seed to sale. So we do grow side operations, both indoor and outdoor. We do nursery operations to supply plants to those grow side. We do micro cultivators. We do home growers and ACMPR support under that licensing regime. We also do cannabis processors. So those are the companies that turn cannabis into the more advanced products, your oils and edibles and concentrates and what have you, that you can buy in the marketplace now. We work with them. We work on the transport and cargo side. We work with lots and lots of retail stores, from bigger chains down to one-off independent local groups. And we work with cannabis industry associated participants. So whether those are consultants or designers, or we have a couple cannabis tourism companies on the books, other things like that. So basically anything related to cannabis we do, because we're able to help understand, although it's cannabis related, that there's still some basic underlying insurance parameters to it. If we're insuring a cannabis processor, it's not really any different than insuring a manufacturing plant. We can turn, I don't know, grain into tortilla chips or something like that. I guess corn into tortilla chips. Or we can turn cannabis plants into edible chocolates. There's not that whole lot of different. You still have property exposures, equipment breakdown, business interruption, general liability. The crime exposures, those are all relatively similar. But understanding how the insurance piece works, and then understanding how the cannabis world works from a regulatory standpoint, and then blending those two together to make sure you can present the right information to the client and the right submission to the markets is how you're going to find success in those areas. And that's what we do. So basically, if it's even somewhat cannabis related, we do it in our office. Now, I did mention before, it's not our only practice area we deal in. Cannabis is about half of our book, and other industries of various types make up the rest. But it is, obviously half is a pretty significant number when it comes to a commercial insurance portfolio.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, going forward, obviously, cannabis is the industry is growing rapidly. You kind of touched on it yourself there, saying how most insurance companies don't want to get involved yet. So how do you see the industry going forward, and particularly with some of these mainline markets we're all familiar with? Do you see them eventually getting involved here and taking that premium?
I do see them eventually getting involved. We have seen them involved a bit more on the back end side in terms of supporting some of the MGAs that are doing it, dipping their toe in the water in that manner to somewhat see how the results are without actually having to open it up wide open to most of their brokers. So we've seen some MGA support for some of the big commercial insurance companies have come in on that. Now, that being said, the cannabis industry probably only totals somewhere between, I'm going to guess, somewhere around $100 to $150 million in total annual premium across every facet of the industry in Canada right now. Maybe it keeps going up, but it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that gigantic. There are many, of the approximately $12 billion or so in commercial insurance premiums that are placed on an annual basis in Canada, $150 million is less than 1% of that. So, it's about 1% of that. And that's not a major factor. Now, adding on 1% of new industry that didn't exist 2 years ago or 3 years ago is great and good for economic development and good for the insurance business. But it's not going to move the needle. Unfortunately, where we have run into difficulty is that the hard market conditions have come for us all. And so we are not, the cannabis side of things and the rest of our operations are not spared from that either. And so it's going to be really tough for me to see major commercial insurance companies going out and deciding they really want to get into insuring a bunch of cannabis risk when in the other rest of their 99% of their operations, they are slashing coverage, getting out of lines of business, jacking rate, raising deductibles, et cetera, et cetera. It's a tough thing for them to really justify it, corporate underwriting, to say, yes, let's get into an entire industry we don't really know anything about, when the play of the day is to get out of every other industry they do know anything about. So I think until the hard market conditions ease up, which, I mean, the forecast 12 months ago was in 18 months, and there is no way they're easing up in the next 6 months at all. I would say they're probably only going to get worse over the next 2 years or longer. And until the reinsurers start to be a little more lenient on cannabis, and until the U.S. legalizes it federally, which should unlock the various American insurance companies able to make it able for them to trade in that business on an international scope, which would be the parents of many of Canada's major commercial insurance companies. I think until all of those things happen, I don't think we're going to see a major move into the cannabis sector by the domestic insurance companies.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, especially with how the hard market plays into that. Those are great points, but I think in your industry, there's a long road ahead, but you guys have obviously positioned yourselves very well to grow as the industry grows, and whether it takes 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it's our hope. One of the other reasons we're in this business is, we like to grow with our clients. One of the best calls you can get as a commercial broker, as I'm sure you know, is, hey, we just bought another several $1 million of equipment. Please add it to the policy. Or, hey, our sales quadrupled year over year. We're doing really well. Let's adjust the GL rate, right? Those endorsements are really fun to process. So without a whole ton of extra work. And so with our clients, we've many of our current clients, we insured right from day one, from shovel in the ground on construction all the way through to becoming operational companies. And we have lots of our clients at various steps down along that chain. So we're very happy to continue to support our clients, even if it's only a couple $1,000 in a premises GL policy or something like that, while they get construction done on their cannabis farm or on their grow facility or on their retail store, that those accounts, treating them right from the beginning will lead to great dividends later on down the road when they're actually fully operational and selling lots of product and racking up the sales and buying lots of equipment.
Yeah, no, said it perfectly. Just to, we'll change subjects here, but kind of going back towards you as an individual, we touched on how you got into the industry, and the motives behind starting your own brokerage and taking cannabis specifically. Being involved with so many things, the pressure of running your own company, right, and having people that you employ, right, you're also held accountable to them, and obviously it's part of their livelihood. What would you say, what's the biggest thing that motivates you to keep going and just keep trying to push the envelope?
That's a good question. I think it comes into a mix of factors. I think the first one at this stage now is momentum. That initial fun spark of, yeah, we're out there starting this new company and now we're super gung-ho about all these cool new exciting things. I mean, that has definitely faded a little bit because the company was started over 3 years ago. So, we can't just start new companies all the time. But it has built into some nice momentum, and I feel that we are very excited to see how that's continued to develop and grow. We have had some good success sales-wise over the past couple of years, so I'm very happy about that. We want to keep that going. But I also think that there's a discipline and responsibility piece on the back end. We have 8 employees now. It's not just my business partner and I, where if we screw something up really badly and neglect things, that's just us who's going to suffer. It's now our employees are going to suffer as well, and I care about them a lot. Even my brother who works for us, we can be nice to him too. But it's we care about that, of doing that right, and we want to see the continued growth and success for us, for our staff, and for us to do well. I do find though that, back to I said about that spark of doing new things, is as you grow as a business, you do get the opportunity to try new adventures and develop and grow and expand where things are. One of those things, for example, for us right now is we're working on our Revo licensing in Ontario, so we can expand as a retail broker out into that province. So that's a nice side project. On top of that, there's been some nice industry accolades that have certainly helped make us feel good. We won the Insurance Business Canada Brokerage of the Year under 10 Employees Award at the Insurance Business Canada Awards last year. And although it's not announced quite yet, but it will be by the time this interview goes up, we were selected again as a finalist for that award for this year's Insurance Business Canada Award. So we are in the running for it this year, and we'll find out if we can go back to back on that one in November. So that's, the industry accolades are pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. I like looking at the hardware sitting on my mantle at home. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to, you have to like somewhat what you do at work. I don't obviously like everything about being an insurance broker. I don't particularly like accounting, nor do I particularly like doing certificates, but I understand that they're both important parts of running the operation. But I do like dealing with markets, and I do like working with our clients to find their risk management things, and I do like doing our business and strategic forecasting and our sales strategy planning and all the other things that are a little bit more of a complex idea than certificates are. And so, getting the opportunity to be in charge of those things and work with people to build those out is I think it's a pretty fun way to spend the day at work. I would be pretty bored if I spent most of my day retired and playing golf or doing something like that. I think I would last all of about 3 weeks before I want to go back and work on building things. So finding that spark to actually enjoy what you do most of the time, not all of the time, most of the time, is, I think, important to keeping moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think it's naive to think that every second of your life is enjoyable, right? At times it's not, but it just goes back into what we said earlier. It pays dividends for the future. Ultimately, what your vision is for the future, your workload has to align with that. So I think that's a good outlook to have. If I have my timelines right here, so you said up until you started Fuse, that was about 10 years, and now it's been 3 years. So 13 years.
It's been 10 years total.
10 years total, sorry, okay. So
I started Fuse about 7 years in, I guess, in my insurance career.
Okay. So 10-year insurance career. Of all what you've done, right? you got your awards at Rogers. You started Fuse. You guys got recognized as top brokerage with under 10 staff. If you had to pick one moment that kind of made you the happiest or proudest of the whole journey, what would you say that'd be?
There's a couple in there. The winning the award is definitely up there for the brokerage of the year. Like we were very surprised. I would have pegged our chances of winning at less than 5% when we were there in Toronto last year. So we were genuinely shocked that we won. So that was pretty sweet. In terms of moments that are a little less public, that are not necessarily staple all over our LinkedIn page and our website, working with my brother has been really cool. He's 5 years younger than I am, and so we got him into the insurance business. He never worked in insurance before. He was actually still in university. He's since graduated. He was still in university when he started with us, and had never worked in B2B sales, and had never worked in commercial or any other type of insurance. And so watching him grow and develop, watching him get out there and hustle and win accounts and speak intelligently about insurance products to potential clients or to our current clients, watching his personal growth has been really rewarding as well. So I'd say that, although I don't have any one specific single moment in that, there's been a lot of small moments in that development over the past few years of working together with him. So that's been really cool as well. And on top of that, I guess he must like PYIB/YBN because he volunteered to sign up for the board at our most recent meeting back in April. So he's now a board member with me on Alberta's version of YBN.
Yeah, no, that must be really gratifying. I have a brother too. I'm the white collar brother. He's the blue collar one. So I don't think we'll cross paths like you guys did. But I know what you're saying when you see your brother do well. It definitely means a lot. So no, good stuff. On the other side of that coin, I'm sure you've made a ton of mistakes in your 10-year career, probably especially with you starting off. I know you said there was things that took months that you could probably do in a day now, but biggest mistake, whether it was something you did or just from a strategic level, you went the wrong direction. What's kind of one that you're still slapping yourself a bit about?
Yeah, I would say that our biggest mistake was underestimating how difficult the tech development process would be and the amount of work it would take to directly sell insurance start to finish online. I think we overestimated a number of things. We overestimated the willingness and ability of insurance companies to be able to actually offer quote bind issue insurance products for small business. We overestimated our internal skills and ability to develop viable tech products, and most importantly, we overestimated how much consumers actually want to buy commercial insurance online. We have since learned that although attitudes are slowly changing, we find that a lot of people actually do want to work with an insurance broker. They don't just want to do click, click, done on their product. They want to actually have some of that counsel and advice, even for small insurance policies, like your $1,200 office packs or something like that. And so what we found there is that the role of the broker was a little bit more valuable than I perhaps maybe gave it credit for. And so those factors combined together basically meant that our initial business plan of build this cool online system, it can sell insurance for us while we're sleeping or drinking margaritas on the beach, and we'll just be all wealthy and happy and life will be grand, has not come to pass at all. We have had significant success using technology to leverage our brokerage operations in making the worst 20% of being a broker for the most part automated away. So we're really enjoying that. But no, our biggest mistake was probably the overestimation and underestimations on the various factors going into a full digital brokerage or digital commercial insurance provider play. So no, but as we pivoted away from that or around that over the last, especially in the first 2 years of our operations, it's a learning experience, and it's one of the business sayings that I'm somewhat fond of is that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. So I think one of the things that's important out there is if you do have a business plan and you think there is some merit behind it, is go test it out and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, adapt and see what isn't working, see what is working, and go make those changes from there, so you can climb up those steps of success and not just burn out on something that people don't want to pay money for, because no one wants to pay money for it. You don't have a business, and that is not going to go well for you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, especially with commercial clients, like you said, you know, yes, opportunity for online, but and you'll know more than I do, but some of the numbers I've heard just in terms of cost to acquire and then the retention rates, some of these digital brokerages, it's such a different business than the traditional brokerage model, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I think we're moving that way slowly, but there has to be some sort of ground where the broker is still a critical part of the operation, right? To keep those relationships going.
Yeah, and I think as we continue to see, the hard market conditions especially will be a factor in prolonging the usefulness of the broker, even for little accounts that may be more efficiently done online. But also keeping in mind out there that there are hundreds of thousands of commercial accounts in Canada that are not particularly viable to do start to finish online. Basically, pretty much anything where you're paying more than about 10 grand in premium is probably not going to be a pretty easy thing to do online. And so you might want to have a broker in there. You do need to have a broker in there to make sure that's going to flow well, but that broker is going to be way better at their job if they have some digital tools to augment what they do. And so that's where we pivoted to what we want to do in terms of whether that's filling out applications, processing data, managing things in our CRM system, quoting things, whatever that may be, that if we can use digital tools so that the broker can spend more time chatting with the client or fighting with the markets, then they are going to be way more effective than if the broker spends all their time doing all this redundant data entry or something similar. So that's where we pivoted our philosophy to, and where I think the industry in general is going to go over the next 10 years or so.
Yeah, no, good point. I was going to ask you what sort of obstacles you've had to overcome with Fuse Insurance. I think we've talked on a lot of that, but if you had to narrow it down to one, was it the tech side and that kind of estimating how successful would be, or was it market side?
I would say that if I had to pick one, the biggest obstacle would be, it's a tough decision. Like, markets have come around for sure. And, as we've specialized in areas and worked more and more with our cannabis markets, for example, we get along very well with them. We talk to them on a daily basis. So, it builds great relationships there. So I'm not too worried about that. And that was an obstacle that's been, I would say, overcome. It was harder than I anticipated. I would say that currently the bigger obstacles are, I would say, overall economic conditions. I think that within Alberta, especially, it's been a bit of a rough sailing over the last couple of years, and this year has been particularly awful, not just from COVID, but also from oil, and as well as reduced public spending and other factors that are really just driving the economy of Alberta into the ground. And so, although insurance is typically one of the last industries to be affected, rest assured that it is going to be affected, because insurance premiums are effectively just a percentage of economic activity. And so as that economic activity, fades away or is influenced by various outside factors, that's going to have an impact on insurance providers over the next number of years. And so for us, it's how do we ensure that we can grow our business as a young brokerage and find that success when the overall pie for us that we're cutting slices out of is slowly diminishing as years to come. So I think that's going to be our biggest current obstacle. But that being said, I'm also confident that we can actually find a success in there and overcome that with some smart strategic thinking and making sure that we're tapping into the right facets of the economy that are still going to do well.
Yeah, totally agree, man. So we touched a lot on, mistakes you made, obstacles, proud moments, but we talked about the future. Let's split up into two again. What are your goals personally for the future, and what's your goals for Fuse going forward?
Well, I mean, certainly those are pretty intertwined, but we'll try to see if we can separate those out. In terms of Fuse, we want to see it grow into a meaningful, I'm not going to say a full-blown regional brokerage, because we are not particularly keen on the personal line side of the equation. Speaking of economic and challenges, although a lot of my comments so far have been geared towards commercial, I haven't really touched on personal. I do think the personal line side is going to be taken away by the internet. And so I know that's a tough thing to admit in a interview that is for other brokerages, many of whom deal very heavily in personal lines. But if we follow the example of the UK, which tends to be about 10 years ahead of us in everything insurance related all the time, they transact roughly around 90% of their business through some form of online platform, whether it's through an aggregator or a direct writer or something like that, which means the broking piece of it is pretty small. And so that is going to be a tough pill to swallow for things going forward. So with that in mind, our focus is away from the personal line side of things for the most part with Fuse. We want to continue to grow in commercial. One of our more measurable goals in the near future is likely to expand across Canada. Quebec will be its own special challenge, as doing anything in insurance in Quebec always is. But we feel that Ontario, which should be done for us hopefully by the end of this year, and then the Maritimes to follow shortly thereafter, will give us a presence across most of the country, and we can sort out Quebec when we get to it. We also want to continue to grow staff-wise. I'd like to see us be at anywhere between 15 and 20 staff within the next 18 months. So we have some pretty ambitious growth plans there where we want to grow, and we'd like to do that. And then we want to see the book grow. So, we've been on a pace of roughly 200 to 300% growth year over year since we started. And I don't think we'll be able to keep that up forever, because if we do that, within 10 years, we'll own the entire global economy, and it's probably not in the cards. But, I do want to see the high level of growth continue as we continue to push forward on there and do that. Personal goals. As you mentioned briefly, I didn't mention at the beginning of the call, I am also a director of the IBAA. So that started for me just recently back in May or June. And so I have a couple of years in that term there, but I'd like to see my involvement in the IBAA continue to grow. Where that goes in terms of any sort of leadership roles within the board will be yet to be determined, as conditions allow, and other people on the board also want to be involved as things moving forward. So I'd like to see that, and I'd like to see some growth within IBAC as well. For our new Young Broker Advisory Council for YBAC, which is part of the national group there, I'd like to see the continued prominence of young brokers through that organization, which will then radiate down and provide additional benefit and prominence to young brokers in each of the provincial associations. So it's my goal there to continue to grow that organization and further cement what we're doing at the national level, to leave a strong foundation in that group, so that we can have a great young broker network across the country for the future.
Oh, awesome stuff. So I know we probably touched on this as well, but just in general, what opportunities do you see as being the biggest for young brokers to take advantage of, between industry participation or education initiatives? But what do you think young brokers should be doing to set themselves apart now, as the passing of the guard is somewhat soon?
Yeah, I'll answer this question sort of in two parts. I'll start with what I think the opportunities are, and then I'm going to follow it up with how do you take advantage of those opportunities, because I think that's an important part that people sometimes skip in this discussion. So yeah, as we mentioned before, and as you just mentioned again, the big opportunities that changing of the guard. It's not gonna all happen on one day. It's not gonna be the rapture where all the old insurance guys just disappear off into the sunset all at the same moment. They're gonna get, Thanos snapped out of existence, but they're gonna slowly retire one at a time and leave those roles there. Or alternatively, for those of us who are in production roles in insurance, are going to leave their accounts exposed to be attacked, so you can continue to build up your book if you're in that type of role within the insurance industry. But I think that that's going to be the biggest factor. I also think that with the further development of InsurTech and other digital solutions in the insurance industry on both the personal line side and on the commercial line side, that there will be a demand for insurance professionals who speak technology. Because there's a lot of people out there who speak technology, who can code, who can program and all that, but getting them to understand insurance, and we've seen in many InsurTechs in the past, has proven to be a struggle at best. So if you are technology inclined and you want to be involved in that area, there's going to be lots of cool opportunities of that as those lines continue to develop. And so how do we take advantage of the changing of the guard and of the tech move within the insurance industry? Well, the number one way is to get involved. It's going to be tough to find out about the opportunities of potential positions open at other firms or just general movement in the industry in general if you don't actually go out and do things. So going to YBN events, meeting people through that, going out to other industry events, put on, whether it's, just general fun networking things, golf tournaments, or just getting together. I know that it's the pandemic, and I know that those are somewhat on hold right this second, but they will be back within probably the next 12 to 18 months as vaccines and whatnot continue to roll out for COVID. So I would say get involved with that. But even in the interim, YBN Manitoba has been putting on some cool events. There was a trivia night that happened. I believe there are some other things coming up over the course of the next year. So get involved with those now and continue to build those connections. I would also say that it's good if you want to be a knowledgeable professional to stay up and well read. There's a number of insurance industry publications that release daily or weekly newsletters that you might want to tap into. Insurance Business Canada, Canadian Underwriter, CIP Society, and others all have those publications. So I'd say that's a good way to know what's going on within the business. I'd also say that professional education is there. If we are full of downtime right now because we can't go to golf tournaments and bond spiels and all that other good stuff to go and have a couple beverages within the industry, take some time, do some courses. Most of your brokerages will probably pay for them, or at least partially pay for them. So why not take your CABE or CIP and actually, get some letters after your name and learn some things about insurance. You're not going to lose anything in that, especially when you don't have to pay for it. So you might as well take advantage of those things there and get those things done when you're kind of socked in for the winter without a whole lot of stuff to do and go and do and see. So I would say that if you do that, if you go out and meet people, if you educate yourself about the going on in the industry and you educate yourself about the technical part of the industry, you'll well position your career for future growth, whether that's within your own firm. If there's, potential, leader, if you're being sort of looked at as the next, I guess, the succession planning within your own brokerage, or if you're looking to move up in your career at a bigger operation or jump somewhere else, or if you're looking to make a move to a different part of the industry, whether that's the the underwriting side or the claim side or some insure tech with some nifty technology they've got going on. Being educated and well-read and somewhat well-connected to the industry is it's not going to be bad for you, I promise.
Yeah, I'm actually personally tomorrow I'm taking my first CIP course, so pretty scared. C12.
C12 property. There you go. That one's not so bad. I don't think. The liability one, I think, is C13. That one's a little bit more of a fun adventure. So. Yeah. So no, it's congratulations starting your CIP. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do.
And it's really, my reasoning is just what you said there. There's not a lot going on right now. In a sales role in a brokerage, you're always busy. There's long days, early days, weekends, whatever, right? But ultimately, I think that education pays off tremendously, just like you said, right? And beyond the letters, you're learning something as well. And for me, as someone who's been a career salesman, never not worked a sales job since I was 16, making that transition in insurance to, yes, you need to sell, but how do you become a trusted advisor where these commercial clients can actually look at you for advice and not just think you're trying to sell them something. So that's part of my journey anyway, and I think education plays a huge part in that, and just being part of the YBN personally, for the same reasons you mentioned, just get well connected. I've only been in the industry now 3 years, but the change I've seen in 3 years of people going here and get hired here, and I switched to a new brokerage once already, and having people swap all the time. That the relationships you build today, you don't know what that's going to mean 5 years from now, right? Or less or longer, right? Especially as young brokers, we've got a long time ahead of us. And I think that work in now, it's a way to separate yourself from the pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, something I didn't mention, but I wanted to really emphasize is have some fun too. If you as a young broker go and tell me with a straight face that you went to a golf tournament or a bonspiel or something like that and didn't have fun, then I'm going to call you a liar, because they are generally fun events and it still gives you all those benefits we were talking about in the networking and the potential education side. So go take advantage of them. Go meet people and have fun curling. Go meet people and have fun on virtual trivia night. Go meet people and have fun on whatever other cool activities come up to do. I know that YBN Manitoba, which is Habitat for Humanity, that's an awesome thing for everyone to do. And I'm sure that, well, that was a hard day of work, and I heard that it was 50,000 degrees outside and there with no air conditioning because you're obviously in a non-built house. I'm sure you guys looking back on it still had fun, no matter how physically challenging the day was. So I would say that getting out there and actually having some fun is a wonderful side benefit to networking. Or if you really like having fun, all that networking is a wonderful side benefit to going out and having fun, whichever way you want to phrase it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I remember being in the first IBAM convention, my first one, which was in 2018, April. And I remember I was walking into the next one in 2019 with my boss at the time, and I just said to him, I was like, it feels like last week we were here doing it, right? And he said it to me, time flies when you're having fun. And I couldn't agree more, especially with some of the initiatives I've been involved with, and not just staying in the office and waiting to clock out, but really getting involved. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. So I think we share that same viewpoint. Hey, Kevin, no, I mean, I really appreciate everything you said so far. Obviously, the interview, we're trying to tailor towards young brokers like me, like you. There's a ton of them out there, and eventually we are going to be the future of this industry. So I know we keep repeating this, but we've touched on a lot of stuff. But what if you could just summarize it, quick paragraph, what's the best advice you'd give to the 25-year-old, the 28-year-old young broker to truly thrive in their career going forward?
Insurance has way more to offer than you could ever possibly imagine. Go out there and explore it, have some fun doing it, and learn something along the way, and I promise you're going to have an amazing career.
Well said.
That's my advice.
All right, Kevin. Well, hey, really appreciate you taking the interview, and I have a feeling everyone's going to be interested in listening to this one. I also have a feeling we're going to hear your name for many years to come as we see Fuse grow, and I'm sure you serving on the board currently, what's going to happen with that? You're going to be someone that's, I think, going to be a big player in this industry for a long time. So I really look forward to seeing how you develop and seeing your brokerage grow, and really appreciate, again, taking the time and all you do for the young brokers out there between
absolutely
provincial level and national.
Yeah, happy to help with all this. That's why I'm here on this call, is I want to support young brokers, and to that effect, if any of the young brokers listening out there, or you, I'm here, and if you have any questions about it, feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn or connect with me that way, or send me an email. My contact info is on fuseinsurance.ca on our website. I'm always happy to spare time for a quick phone chat or a coffee or what have you within geographically convenient. But I'm happy to help. So if you're a young broker out there and you just want to bounce something off me, or if you want to learn something about cannabis insurance, or you want our brokerage to help you with cannabis insurance or anything like that, I'm around. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. So yeah, Kevin Lee on LinkedIn or fuseinsurance.ca, either one works to get in touch with me. But yeah, thank you for your time, and good luck with the rest of the interviews. I know this is going to be a great series, and I really like this idea. I think it's a great way for young brokers to learn some things from various people who've, from different sides of the industry. And I am going to watch the YBN Manitoba page to see who the other interviewees are and see if I can learn something from them too.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate the time.
Have a great rest of your evening.
You too.
Bye.